It has to be because all human beings are political animals. I don't have time to go into that, but all our actions, everything we do, derives out of either big politics or small politics. And so, yeah, literature is political. The question is, though, or what I think is important, is that we should distinguish between all the various forms of literature. Because one could consider, say, journalism as a part of literature, and it is its job to report factually. What I'm dealing with when I'm talking about literature here, I'm talking about creative writing, the works of the imagination. And for me, although we're all political animals, we inhabit a political world, we're human beings, the difference for me lies in not what we write, but how we express it. And I think the creative writer has a job to find ways of expressing reality that transcend that reality. You know, you have to you have to make something out of everyday experience reality rather than trying to hit the reader over the head with your political ideas. That's not what creative writing as such is about. Well, you know, I started out as a writer without any help whatsoever, and I think it's a situation for most people outside of, you know, certain countries. The best way of learning to write is to read good writing. You know, that is how you learn. And think of it, writing is a craft, and you need your tools. You need to command of grammar, of spelling, of all of those are just simply tools for writing of the English language or whatever language you're writing in. But you learn, if you can't go to a class to teach you how to write, you can learn from reading other writers. And in fact, historically, this is how writers have learned. And to me, it's still the best way. But writing is not just putting your thoughts down on paper. It's also learning how to stand back from what you've written, to develop a critical distance from it, and to say, you know, what have I done here? How can I improve it? And try to get as much critical response as you can to your work. Yes, there are many writers who live in regimes that are critical of any creative activity. We know that. But what is wonderful about creative writing is that throughout the ages, writers have found ways and developed devices for talking about things without seeming to talk about them. So we have devices like magical realism, we have fables, we have satire, we have fantasy. So there are ways of not confronting what you want to talk about head on, but of approaching it sideways from the margins. And I think a lot of writers who are in regimes where it's dangerous to be a writer have found these ways of talking about politics in a very subtle kind of way. I think some of the Latin American novels, for example, novels coming out of some of the African novels, and I mean I can't think of a specific example, but it's not just in literature. You see it in art as well. You see it in films. You see where the whole creative process is engaged in finding ways of storytelling, because this is what we're talking about in art. That is not direct. It is, you know, it is taking other approaches, whether it's comedy or satire or, as I said, magical realism, this kind of thing. So there are ways of talking about your world in ways that the people who share that world with you can understand it, but which perhaps does not endanger you in the same way as, you know, just talking about it.